Hello farmers, I'm Miss Lily. I'm the librarian here at Harmon, and I am speaking to you today about a new reading program that we're going to start here during Farmer Flex time, and it's called SSR. You've probably heard of it, you've been in school for years, and we're going to institute that here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about SSR and why it's a good thing for us to do here on our campus. And then I've got a stack of books that I'm going to book talk real quickly with you and hopefully give you some ideas and spark some interest in books you might want to check out from our library. So SSR is Sustained Silent Reading. That means that we're going to, in Farmer Flex on Thursdays, we're all going to read for part or most of the period. It'll give you time to really get into a book that you've chosen, that you really like, and the room will be quiet and you'll be able to read it. We're going to start doing this next Thursday. So you've got time, you've got about a week to come in and choose a book from the library if you don't have one. If you're in an English classroom, your teacher may have books that you also can look at and choose to read. So the books that I'm going to talk to you about today will be in the library, and it's first come, first serve. You're welcome to check them out, and if we don't have them available, you can put them on hold for you. The whole idea of this is that you will have a book on by next Thursday. SSR time is not a time to come to the library to check out. SSR time is when you actually read your book. So why is SSR important? Well, it's important for a number of reasons, especially here at school. Think about what it says, sustained silent reading. Sustained meaning it's for a period of time. This is not a quick 30-second, read it fast, take a quiz, do something like that. You're going to actually just be able to read for some length of time, and you'll be uninterrupted. That's another thing sustained is you are not going to be interrupted. You will get that full amount of time to read a book. The room will be quiet. Everybody, including the teacher, will be reading. So it's a great environment to really get involved with the book that you have chosen. And why do we do it? Actually, the main reason that SSR is important is to just experience the joy of reading, of having time to read. We're all really busy, and we're all really connected to things that make noise. You know, our earbuds with our music, our phones, our tablets. There's a lot of activity and a lot that takes our attention. But in order to really learn to enjoy reading, you need the time and you need a quiet space to do it, and this is the time to do it. And the good news about Sustained Silent Reading is that these are books that you choose. Nobody's assigning these to you. You're not going to have a quiz afterwards. You don't have to write a paper. You don't have to do a project. You are simply going to read, and that's all. Another reason we do SSR is just to get better at reading. I know that there are people who don't think they're good readers, who don't think they like to read, but the fact is you get better at it by doing it. It's not always comfortable at first when you start doing this. It's not always comfortable to be sitting in a really quiet room and having to concentrate on a book. We all understand that. But over time, and when you continue to do that, you're going to get better at reading and hopefully really enjoy the process. There's also some benefits to SSR that you don't even have to worry about. It just comes from the practice of reading on a regular basis for an extended period of time. Number one, it enhances your enjoyment. Hopefully you'll get better and better at choosing books that you really like, and then that time will fly because you are going to enjoy the books that you're reading. And unbeknownst to you, while you're reading constantly, it increases your comprehension. You're reading a lot of texts, you're reading a lot of stories, you're understanding the stories, and you will get better at understanding things that you read. It also builds your vocabulary. There's nothing better for a good vocabulary than just simply reading. The more you read, the more words you read, and the more different words you read in different contexts. You know, you might be reading some scientific language, you might be reading, and these could be stories. And just the vast variety of words that you will put into your brain from reading consistently, it will be a help to you throughout school and the rest of your life. And surprisingly, it will also improve your writing. You know, if you're consistently reading good writing, those conventions, the way that good writers write, are just things you'll adopt. And I think that all of these good things, taken all together, just prove that SSR is a good practice for us at school. All right, I've got some books that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to do a little book talk on each one. I chose different genres. Now, genres are just a group, a topic of book. Like in the library, all of our science fiction books are together, all of our horror books together, all the fantasies together. Those are grouped by genre. So these are different genres, and hopefully you will hear about a book that might interest you, and I hope you come to the library and check it out if you don't have other access to it. So the first one I have is Panic by Sharon Draper, and she's a pretty popular author. You may have heard of her, and you may have read some of her books. Her most popular book here at Harmon for sure is Tears of a Tiger, Forged by Fire, Darkness Before Dawn. Well, this is one of her fairly recent books called Panic. And it's about a girl named Diamond, and she knows she's supposed to travel in pairs when she and her friends are out. She knows she's not supposed to talk to strangers, or definitely not go anywhere with a stranger. But she's at the mall, she's separated from her friend for a few minutes, and a very nicely dressed older man asks her directions, and then just gets to chatting with her and kind of convinces her. She's a dancer, let me say this. She is a dancer, and he appeals to that about her, says she looks like a dancer, and that he's a movie producer, and he's making a movie about Peter Pan, and she would be perfect for it. She starts to get intrigued, and then he says, well, you need to come to my house. My daughter, you can meet my daughter, she's in high school. Oh, and by the way, two very famous actresses just happen to be at my house. They can give you tips. They can help you. And she gets so carried away with what this might do to help her that she leaves with this man. And as you can imagine, things don't turn out the way that she expects. So the rest of the book is told from the perspectives of her family and her friends, who are very worried about her, and how they work to try to find her and hopefully save her. This is Panic by Sharon Draper. Next one I have here is The Eye of Minds by James Dashner. You may know this author by The Maze Runner, very popular series, and I think, is there a movie? I think the movie's out. So this is a new one, Eye of Minds, and it sounds really interesting. This is science fiction, and it's the first novel in the Mortality Doctrine series. And I'm just going to read you what the blurb is on the book about it, because it really says it completely. Set in a world of hyper-advanced technology, cyber-terrorists, and gaming beyond your wildest dreams and your worst nightmares. Michael is a gamer who spends a lot of time on the VertNet, which offers total mind-and-body immersion, and the more hacking skills you have, the more fun it is. But some technology is too dangerous to fool with, and one gamer has been doing that with murderous results. The government is watching Michael and plans to use his hacking skills to get into the back alleys and corners of the system that human eyes have never seen. Will the line between game and reality be blurred forever? So this sounds really interesting. It's a 3-book series, and hope you check it out if you like science fiction. Eye of the Minds by James Dashman. Next book I have is a fantasy, and it's called Shattered Souls by Mary Lindsay. And it's about a girl named Lindsay, and she is hearing voices, and she's having visions and crazy dreams, and she's trying really hard to ignore it and be, quote, normal. She had a parent who passed away that had some mental illness, and she doesn't want to think that that is what's happening to her. And she has a really nice boyfriend named Zach, and he wants to help her and he cares about her, but he doesn't really know what to do about what's happening to her. So eventually, Lindsay meets Aiden. It's the boy that appears from her dreams and tells her who she really is, which is a reincarnated speaker or a person who helps lost souls. And Aiden says he has been her protector for centuries. So Lindsay has to make a choice between her current life and the one she knows, or who Aiden says is her destiny as a speaker. And she has to make this decision very quickly because there is an evil spirit that is out to kill her. So Shattered Souls is book 1 of this two-book series, and Fragile Spirits is number 2. And I understand Mrs. Dominich read this book, and I believe she gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. So you might want to check this one out. Shattered Souls, Mary Lindsay. I have a new series here called Texas Fridays, and it's about football. And it's a 6-book series. This is sports. This is our sports genre. It's a 6-book series about, excuse me, 6 different stories about 6 different high schools in 6 different cities in Texas. But all of them involve a young man who plays on the team, but all of a sudden is called to be in a starring role, be in a quarterback role, or be in a leadership role, and how they handle that type of pressure. This one is Texas Fridays Dallas, and it says Bobby Dupree is a backup quarterback when it comes to seeing the field and also with girls. When the starting quarterback goes down with a knee injury, Bobby is thrown into the starring role. He's in the spotlight for Trinity High School football. Can he handle the pressure? So they're not really long books, but the stories sound really good, and the other cities where the high schools are located are El Paso, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and Odessa. So if you like football, if you like reading sports stories, Texas Fridays, good series. Next one I have is a horror book. I know a lot of you have been in the library for orientation, and you have been checking out Stephen King. I don't think I have any Stephen King left. This is a little different. This is Rot and Ruin by Jonathan Mabry, and it's a 4-book series. So there's Dust and Decay, Flesh and Bone, and Fire and Ash. This is a zombie book, just right up front. Some of you have told me I don't really like zombies, but if you do like zombie books, this is in the zombie-infested post-apocalyptic America, where Benny Imura lives. Every teenager must find a job by the time they turn 15 or get their food rations cut in half. Benny doesn't want to apprentice as a zombie hunter with his boring older brother Tom, but he has no choice. He expects a tedious job whacking zombies for cash, but what he gets is a vocation that will teach him what it means to be human. So there's a lot of good reviews about this book. One is thrilling, enticing, surprisingly touching. Rotten Ruin will grip readers from the beginning to the end and make them question who the real monsters are. It had me hooked from page 1. So it sounds like a good horror read, but also just a good story read. Rot and Ruin by Jonathan Mabry. Next up, I have a romance. We have lots of romances. This is one. This is called Playing Hurt by Holly Schindler. And this is about basketball star Chelsea Keys, and she has a fantastic future ahead of her. She has had a stellar high school career, and she's looking at a full ride to college. On her last basketball game of her senior year, she slips and falls badly and badly fractures her hip. Her future is not looking good for basketball, and she is devastated. She goes on to graduate, and as a graduation gift, her dad sends her to Minnesota to a boot camp to work with a physical trainer to try to do some rehabilitation work and get her confidence and her strength back. And her trainer is Clint. He's 19 years old, and she's very attracted to him. He's a former hockey player, and he's had his share of physical problems as well. They start to bond and are interested in each other, although Chelsea keeps remembering her boyfriend back home and is not sure that a romance between them is a good idea. So this is about their journey with that, and whether it will lead to romance for Clint and Chelsea. Playing her, Holly Schindler. The next book I have is from an author that I've noticed that a lot of you have heard of, and this is Ellen Hopkins. The book I have right here is Glass. She has written many books, Crank, Tricks, Burned, Fallout, Perfect, Identical, Impulse, Smoke, Tilt, Traffic, and I think there are even more. Ellen Hopkins tends to write about really gritty topics, really difficult topics, drugs, and other things that teens might go through, but from a really compassionate perspective, I guess. The stories are rough and gritty, but she's got a good heart in the books. And Glass is about the drug Crank. Crank is the first book that she wrote about a girl's struggle with the drug. And Christina is trying hard in this book to stay away from Crank. She has a baby to take care of, and she wants to do the right thing. But her life is stressful and difficult, as you can imagine, and sooner or later she's back in the grips of Crank, and she is addicted again. So this is her struggle and what she's going with. This is called a verse novel, and I've shown some of you this. And verse novels are written like poetry. You know, they're kind of linear and narrow, but actually when you start to read it, it reads like a novel. It's not a poem, it's the novel. It's just a convention of how the words are set up on the page. So I don't want you to let the thickness of the book bother you, because there's a lot of white space on each page, and I think if you get involved in the story, it won't matter to you one bit how many pages are in it. So this is Glass from Ellen Hopkins. I know a lot of you like graphic novels, and we do have a lot of them. We have anime, we have all different kinds. We also have nonfiction graphic novels that are about topics in life. And this is called March. This is book 1, and it is written by John Lewis. He is currently a congressman from Georgia. And let me just read to you who this man is. He's an American icon, one of the key figures of the civil rights movement. His commitment to justice and nonviolence has taken him from an Alabama sharecropper's farm to the halls of Congress. From a segregated schoolroom in the 1963 March on Washington, and from receiving beatings from state troopers to receiving the Medal of Freedom from the first African American president. And this is his story and how he experienced the civil rights movement. There are 3 volumes to this, and they all depict John Lewis's struggles. And this is how kind of like in a comic book sort of way, although it is a true and serious and inspiring story. So I hope that you will check this out. March, book 1, graphic novel, John Lewis. I've got 3 books here that are what we call collective biography, or 2 of them actually are collective biographies. That means there are biographies of several different people. It's not just one person. And this looked so good to me, and I hope that it does to you. And what's good about collective biographies is that they're short about the person that they're describing, and it's a great SSR book. You can dip in and read about a few different people in the time that you have to read, and then next week you can go back and read about some more. You don't have to really worry about, catching your place if you haven't read in a week. So they're great things to read for SSR. This is Choosing Courage by Peter Collier, inspiring stories of what it means to be a hero. And he has chosen regular people who became heroes. He's got a section of World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and heroism in civilian life, people who didn't serve in the war, but still, there's a teacher, and there's a doctor, and a person who had something to do with being a hero during 9/11. So, a lot of inspiring people in this book, and something great to read for SSR. Choosing Courage, Peter Collier. Another collective biography, but really different from that, is called Rad Women Worldwide. And, excuse me, this is about artists and athletes, pirates and punks, and other revolutionaries who shaped history. They're all women, and they're from all over the world. I love the inside of this. It shows you a map of the world and all of the women that they spotlighted in this book and where they came from. They're different women who have done different things, but have, in many cases, changed their societies and ours for the better. There's Aung San Suu Kyi from Burma or Myanmar. She's a long-time leader and advocate for democracy. Miriam Makeba from South Africa. She's a singer and a lifelong anti-apartheid activist, and change maker. Sister Juana Inez de la Cruz from Mexico. She was born in the 1600s and was a brilliant thinker and student and philosopher, and she spent her life defending the rights and the ability of women to learn and to study. And there's a university that is named after her in Mexico. So lots of interesting, you can just dip in and read about a woman of your choice or a few women of your choice during SSR. Great SSR book, Rad Women Worldwide. The last book I have to show you is called Buried Alive, and you may have heard this story, how 33 miners survived 69 days deep under the Chilean desert. It's by Elaine Scott. Now, you're in your teens now, and you were probably a pretty little kid when this happened. But I'll just read to you briefly what it was. In August 2010, 7 years ago, 33 miners were buried alive more than 2,000 feet below the surface of Earth. After 17 tense days, just as hope was nearly gone, rescuers made contact with the men. Joy broke out around the world. All 33 men were alive, but it would be long weeks before they emerged from the mine. So this is about their journey, about their horrible experience, but the inspiring things that ended up happening to them and to the world, really. I remember seeing this on television, and there were so many times that it did not look like anybody was coming out of this mine alive. So it's a great book. It's got words, it's got pictures, it's got big quotes. Just a very good book and inspiring and a great SSR read. So those are my picks for this time. I hope there's something here that you might want to read, or please come to the library when you can, before school, during lunch. We would love to see you and help you choose a fantastic book, and I hope that you will really appreciate and use SSR during our Farmer Flex time.